On Maple Street, the houses all looked the same. White fences, neatly trimmed lawns, blue recycling bins lined up like soldiers on Tuesday mornings. From a distance, it seemed peaceful, almost perfect. But beneath the sameness lived a quiet tension, one that most people pretended not to see. Malik Johnson noticed it the day he moved in. He was 16, tall, with careful eyes and a habit of thinking before speaking. When the moving truck pulled up in front of number 47, curtains twitched along the street. People watched, pretending they weren't watching. His mother, Denise Johnson, noticed too. "Don't let it get to you," she said, her voice calm but tired. "People stare because they don't know us." Malik nodded, though he knew it wasn't that simple. Across the street, a boy about his age stood on a porch. He had light brown hair, freckles, and an expression that mixed curiosity with uncertainty. His name, Malik would later learn, was Evan Miller. Evan's father, Tom Miller, stood behind him with crossed arms. "Come inside," Tom said sharply. Evan hesitated. He wanted to wave. He didn't know why, he just did. But his father's tone left no room for argument. Evan turned and followed him in. Malik watched the door close. That was his welcome to Maple Street. At school, things weren't much better. Maple Ridge High prided itself on being diverse, but Malik could count the number of black students on one hand. Teachers mispronounced his name even after weeks of correction. Security guards followed him in the hallways, their eyes lingering just a little too long. One afternoon, Malik stopped by his locker when he heard laughter behind him. "Hey, Malik," a voice said. "You lost?" It was Tyler Briggs, a football player with a loud mouth and an easy grin. His friends snickered. "Last time I checked, this is my school," Malik replied evenly. Tyler raised his hands in mock surrender. "Relax, man, just joking." Malik had heard that phrase too many times. Meanwhile, Evan watched from a distance. He recognized Malik from the street. There was something about the way Malik carried himself, quiet but strong, that made Evan uncomfortable, though he didn't know why. At dinner that night, Evan mentioned Malik. "There's a new kid at school," he said. "Lives across the street." Tom Miller stiffened. "The Johnsons?" "Yeah," Evan said. "Malik's in my history class." His mother, Karen, glanced at her husband. "What about him?" Tom shrugged. "Just saying, things might change around here." Evan frowned. "Change how?" Tom didn't answer. Change came faster than anyone expected. A week later, Mrs. Alvarez's grocery store was vandalized. The front window was shattered, and someone had spray painted the word thief across the brick wall. Rumors spread immediately. "I heard it was Malik," someone whispered in the cafeteria. "Figures," another student said. "New kid." Malik heard the rumors too. He felt them in the way people looked at him, in the way teachers suddenly became colder. When the police showed up at his house that evening, Denise Johnson didn't cry or scream. She simply stood tall. "My son was home all night," she said firmly. "You can check." They did. Malik had been studying with his cousin online. There was proof. But the damage was done. Across the street, Evan watched the police car drive away. His chest felt tight. "That's not right," he said to his parents. "They didn't even check anyone else." Tom sighed. "Evan, life isn't fair." Karen looked down at her plate. Days later, Malik sat alone on the school steps, sketching in a notebook. Drawing helped him think. He was shading a city skyline when someone sat beside him. "Hey," Evan said awkwardly. Malik looked up, surprised. "Hey, I'm Evan. I live across the street." "I know," Malik replied. There was a pause. "I don't think you did it," Evan said quickly. "The store thing. I mean." Malik studied him. "Thanks." Another pause. "My dad, he says stuff sometimes," Evan added. "I don't always agree." Malik closed his notebook. "Then why don't you say something?" Evan didn't have an answer. The real turning point came on a rainy Friday night. Malik was walking home when he heard shouting. He turned the corner and saw Evan surrounded by 3 older boys near the park. One of them shoved Evan hard. "Give it back," the boy snarled. "I don't have anything," Evan yelled, panic in his voice. Malik didn't think. He acted. "Hey," Malik shouted, running toward them. "Leave him alone." The boys looked at Malik, sizing him up. "Mind your business," one said. Malik stood his ground. "It is my business." A security light flicked on. Someone shouted from a nearby house. The boys scattered. Evan was shaking. "You okay?" Malik asked. Evan nodded. "They thought I took their phone." Malik walked him home in silence. At Evan's porch, Tom Miller opened the door. His expression hardened when he saw Malik. "What's going on?" he demanded. "He helped me," Evan said. "Those guys." Tom hesitated. He looked at Malik, really looked at him, and saw not a threat, but a teenager soaked from the rain, standing straight despite the cold. "Thank you," Tom said quietly. It was the first time Malik had ever heard those words from him. The next week, Evan spoke up in class when Tyler made a joke about Malik. "That's not funny," Evan said. "And it's not true." The room went quiet. Malik felt something loosen in his chest. Slowly, things began to change. Not perfectly, not all at once, but change, nonetheless. Mrs. Alvarez's store was repaired. The real vandals were caught. Apologies came, some sincere, some not. One evening, Denise Johnson invited the Millers over for dinner. It was awkward, polite, honest. Tom listened more than he spoke. "I didn't realize how much I assumed," he admitted finally. Denise nodded. "That's how racism works. Quiet, comfortable, until someone challenges it." On Maple Street, the houses still looked the same. But something underneath had shifted. Malik and Evan sat on the curb one afternoon, watching the sun dip low. "Think things will really change?" Evan asked. Malik smiled slightly. "Only if people keep choosing to change them." And for the first time since moving to Maple Street, Malik felt like he belonged, not because the street had changed its color, but because some of the people had changed their hearts.